Hey, what's going on, man? Coach Tyler here with Black Diamond Softball and Fitness. I got my good friend, Coach Mandi Balduf, joining me today. We're going to be breaking down the NCAA Divisions 1, 2, and 3 recruiting calendars, as well as talking NAIA and JUCO. Let's check it out. So I got some help with me today. I got Coach Mandi from NSR. Mandi, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. What's going on, Coach?
Not a whole lot. As busy as I have been, I'm kind of glad it's sort of that dead period for me as far as what I'm doing as a coach, and I'm able to do this kind of stuff. So I know you've been working with NSR for quite a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about NSR?
Yeah, so NSR, National Scouting Report, it's been around since 1980. So it's as old as I am. We're 44 years old. We are an on-the-ground scouting organization. It's a lot different than these recruiting services. Like recruiting service is part of what we do, right? But it's not everything that we do. And so National Scouting Report, you're going to see on-the-ground scouts at events across all levels and across all sports, right? So we don't just do softball. We have baseball, we have football, we have volleyball scouts. And so what our job is, in a nutshell, is to help our families navigate that recruiting process from start to finish and everything in between. Some days I'm a scout, some days I'm a mentor. There's days I'm a sports psychologist. And even maybe a videographer at times. So, I mean, as what I do as an NSR advocate is literally every single hat for what my families need in that process. I've been with NSR for about 7 years. I was a college coach for 15 years prior to coming onto this side of things. And so that's what NSR is in a nutshell.
Yeah. And you talked about how long you've been involved with the game as a coach and as an advocate and as a scout and just wearing a whole lot of different hats in the game. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because the recruiting calendar for all aspects of the game, whether we're talking JUCO, we're talking NAIA, we're talking NCAA, there's some little nuances and differences. And before we started recording this, we talked about, everybody goes by what Division One says. And we definitely will get to Division One, but I want you to kind of go through some of the rules and the guidelines from the junior college level and NAIA before we jump into Division One stuff.
For sure. I think that's probably the easiest route because with junior college and NAIA, there really is not a recruiting calendar. There's very limited rules that limit what those coaches can do at any given time. So they do not have a set recruiting calendar. It's pretty wide open. They govern themselves and they do what they need to do. Now they are much later in the process typically. So they come on a little bit later in this process, but they don't have a recruiting calendar, so to speak.
Right. And when we're talking about the junior college level and we're talking about NAIA, there's no, like, I don't know if I want to say the word stigma or whatever. It's just like, well, you can't hack it, or you're not a good ball player, or
Oh gosh.
you can't play at this level. I mean, there are opportunities there, and there's some of the really great ball players that are down there.
There is some studs across all levels of play. I played at Tiffin University, which is in Tiffin, Ohio, and when I played, it was an NAIA program. It gave me an opportunity to be a student athlete, but also have that balance. So NAIA is very similar to Division II in that there is academic and athletic aid that you can stack on. So I played NAIA softball myself. That school's now Division II. And junior college, oh my gosh, that used to be because kids just couldn't cut it academically, and that's just not the case anymore. Financially, wow, it makes a lot of sense for families. It makes a lot of sense in today's recruiting environment because coaches aren't recruiting high school kids as much as they are those junior college kids or the portal kids. So I think it's changed the game and the way that you look at junior college or NAI. They both can give money. They both can give phenomenal packages that set you up for those last 2 years or for the NAI school to finish out your whole career. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that we can just keep beating this into people that JUCO ball is not less than. NAIA ball is not less than. Heck, I know Division threes that could put it to a Division One any day. So it's not about the level of play.
Yeah. I think like you, that gap from talent level has just shrunk because now more and more people are, instead of listening and doing what other people's are telling them to do, they're actually thinking for themselves now and trying to find their best fit, looking for the opportunity that also aligns with their goals and their aspirations, and not just listening and paying attention to what little Susie is doing. So
Sure. And that COVID stuff is the 2025 class will be the first incoming class into college that doesn't have to deal with a COVID teammate. So this will be the last year these 24s will have a super senior on their squad versus the
yeah,
juniors. The 2025 class will not have any COVID kids. You're still going to have portal kids, right? And JUCO transfers, but you're cycling out of the COVID years.
yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. That is a great point. Well, let's jump over into the NCAA. Of
Okay.
course, there's 3 divisions over there, and everybody goes, by the NCAA Division I calendar.
Sure.
But all of them have, some differences and some key points to it. We're going to get into some of the definitions, but let's talk first about what these different divisions have to offer, not only students but the parents and the coaches and stuff like that when it comes to recruiting, and kind of work through that. Division I, it is probably the one that you'll see the most whenever you're talking to an athlete. If you say, hey, can you name 5 schools that have a softball program, they're probably going to name 5 Division I schools, and that's just how it is. That's the ones you see on TV. That's the ones you see in social media posts and stuff like that. And if you looked at someone's Twitter page of all the schools that they were following, they're probably following all Power 5 schools because those are the ones that get shared the most. But we're going to talk about all of them today. And if you could kind of just break down the difference between Division I, Division II, and Division III as far as their calendars, that would be awesome. So let's start with Division I.
Division I, that's the one that most people are going to see when they hear about any kind of, what period we're in. That's going to be from the Division I. They are the ones that have the most regulations and rules on them. Okay. So I guess to start, there are now 5 different pieces of that recruiting calendar. Okay. And so you're going to have a contact period. You're going to have an evaluation period. You're going to have a quiet period. And then you're going to have the dead period. And then Division I this past year went to that complete recruiting shutdown right around the holiday and New Year, right? So those are going to be, that's when people see, what are we in a contact period, that they're talking about the Division I level. And let me just stop and say, I know that that's the majority of what they're seeing, but that's the minority of where kids go on to play. Right? Like 97% of kids are not going to play at that level. So they really don't need to worry too much about that particular recruiting calendar. It starts basically in August. Obviously, all through summer is going to be a contact period. And that's where contact, just to break it down really simply, is they can meet with you off campus. They can meet with you at your school. They can meet with you at the field. Now there are rules about at a field when they can talk with you. Okay, it has to be at the end of the day, and you have to be released from your team. But a contact period, they can talk with you, they can call you, they can email you, as long as you fit the grad year that they're allowed to contact. So this right now would be the 2025 class, right? 2026s are waiting until September 1st. So that's the contact period. Again, contact is the time of period when they're allowed to make in-person off-campus contact. To break it down that simply. Then you get into evaluation. Evaluation period means they can be out watching, but they cannot talk with you. All they can do is watch. Okay. And then, so when you get in the fall, those are only going to happen for Division I's on those 6 weekends in late October, early November. So again, evaluation just means it's allowed where they can be off campus. So no in-person off-campus contact. So they can be off campus, but they cannot contact you. They can't talk with you face to face. Now, they literally could be around the corner, coach, and pick up the phone and call you. That's how crazy it is. They can't meet with you face to face, but they could be right around the corner and they could call you. Okay. So it's just an evaluation period. They can be off campus, but there's no physical face-to-face contact.
Right.
Dead period. This is one confuses people because they think that dead period means that nothing is happening. And dead period just means that this is the time when coaches are permitted, are not allowed to bring kids on campus for any visits. They won't be off campus watching games, but they can still email, they could still call. They just cannot have anybody on campus visiting and meeting people off campus. So that's when that dead period, those are usually around for Division I, that's going to be around the signing period. So that November 6th through the 9th it was for this year.
Yeah.
The other one's going to be in December for Division I. It's going to be in December during the coaches convention. Okay, so you're going to see those dead periods in those shutdown periods are around a certain date, so to speak, right? So you've got the national signing date starts in November, and so there's going to be a dead period. And then when they go to the coaches convention, there's going to be a dead period. And again, that shutdown period, that's brand new, but that's when coaches they're not allowed to contact anybody. They can't have anybody on campus. So that's literally when coaches can't text you, can't call you, can't do anything. Yeah. And that's just been recently. So
yeah. These rules, one thing I want to harp on, and so parents understand, these rules are for the coaches and the institutions.
Correct.
No one is telling you that you can't send this email, or you can't make a phone call, or you can't send a text, or you can't DM. No one's telling you not to do that. The NCAA has no regulations on what you do in your journey. So
that is correct.
It's like Mandi's saying, they're giving them guidelines. So everybody's sort of on the same playing field. That's why there are rules for these institutions, because we know that people are trying to navigate and they'll find a loophole.
Right. That's why these new rules have come to be, is because they're trying to keep an even playing field. And when you guys look at it, most people think about the Power Fives. Well, those budgets are way different than a lower tier Division I or a mid-major. So what those rules are trying to do is keep it balanced for everybody on the coaching side. Yeah. Right. So to me, though, the recruiting shutdown, that's crazy, man. If you can't in your own heart go, hey, I'm going to spend time with my family and I'm just going to regulate myself. You know what? But if this coach wants to make contact with a kid on Christmas Day, that shouldn't bother me. Yeah. You do what you want to do, but it obviously has come to the point where somebody feels some type of way that they've had to come up with a complete shutdown around the holidays. I mean,
yeah,
Division IIIs are going to tell you they don't want more regulations, they want less, and they regulate themselves. So we'll get there with that one.
Yeah, speaking of Division III, like you said, I mean, they want to do their own thing. They feel that, we don't need these guidelines. We're already working in a certain way. So hey, we appreciate the guidelines, but this is our thing. So talk about that in comparison to what Division I does.
Yeah, so Division III, again, is pretty lenient when it comes to recruiting rules and regulations. They want to regulate themselves, and they don't want to have to put more rules down. So they don't have a recruiting calendar. They're kind of like NAIAs and D3s in that they do what they need to do when they want to do it. And obviously nobody's really, taking crazy advantage of that. And again, I just think the Division IIIs are going to tell you we don't need more regulate. We're doing fine on our own. We can regulate ourselves. We don't need these rules. Yeah. And then you get the Division II, who kind of fits in the middle, and they really don't have a recruiting calendar as well. They have a dead period around the national signing date, but that's it. So, I mean, they're wide open as well, too, throughout the year. Yeah. Okay, so it's the Division I's. When we talk about what's the recruiting calendar, you're really talking about the Division I coaches and what they're able to do and the dates of when they can do those.
Yeah.
The contact evaluation, quiet periods, those don't change as far as that definition doesn't change for any level. The other levels, Division II and Division III, they don't have an evaluation period. They don't have a limited contact period, so to speak.
Yeah.
So and like getting back to what you said, just because the coaches are limited does not and should not stop players and families from doing what they need to do on their end. If you're at 2026 right now and you think, oh my gosh, September 1st is in, 9 months from now, all these coaches are going to come calling. No, they're not if they haven't heard from you. If they don't know who you are and they haven't identified you and you're not emailing them, I mean, heck, we should start with June 15th, which is Division II. So 2026 is, you've got 5 months here to make an impact, because remember, they can't respond to you, but that does not mean that they don't want to hear from you.
That's such a big point, man. I want to continue to drive that point home. Just because you're not getting any type of correspondence back, it doesn't mean they're not seeing it. It doesn't mean that, it's not going through or whatever. You still have to continue to do this, because when they can reach out or when they can talk to you, they will. But if they don't know you, if they haven't gotten anything from you, there's no, they can't find you. I mean, they're just like
Right.
in the dark, covering their eyes up and then grabbing people.
They're not just going to grab random rosters and just flip through and on these dates, oh, I think I'm going to call this kid. They're going to call the kids who have built that relationship. And there's a little bit of a caveat, coach, like with Division II. I can put a kid on a phone call with a Division II coach, but that kid has to call that coach. The coach can't call them. They can't text them. It doesn't work reverse. But with Division II, the player can call the coach. Now, we're not just going to randomly pick up a phone and just call a Division II coach who's never heard from you. That's not the way it works in the process. But that is a caveat that a lot of people don't know and understand. Also, Division II coaches can meet with you on a campus, but they can't help you set that campus visit up, but they certainly can meet with you once you're there. Okay. So come June 15th is when they can respond to you with emails and they can respond to you with text. Now, until then, you and I both know, yes, those schools, Division I and Division II, are going to send you guys camp invites or camp emails, camp flyers. They can send you information on the school. That's not an indication of recruitment, folks.
Yeah.
That's not an indication. Every kid in a 300-mile radius from that school is getting a camp flyer.
Yep.
I get camp flyers. I get invited to camps every week. So what happens, and here's why that happens, coach. As a head coach, I would task my assistant coach, when you came back from a tournament with that roster book, your job is to put all of those emails into a camp file. And so come camp time, that's the file that we're going to email.
Yep.
I might have been at that tournament. Doesn't mean I saw you play, but you're certainly going to get a camp invite.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to be able to still send you stuff, but it's never going to be about recruiting specifically. So that just needs to be said, because people are going to say, well, I got sent this mail or I was sent. Well, yeah, they can do that, but that's not an indication of recruitment.
Yeah. That's how they get people to come to their camps. I mean, they can post on social media. They can do this and, hey, we're having a camp and stuff like that. And that's just like any type of sales job. And that's literally, at this point, that's what it is. They are trying to get as many to their campus for them to be able to look at them during a specific time, because it's easier for that one person to be on campus and have people come versus having to go to different facilities over, different dates over a month or whatever for them to be able to see. They're trying to get as many eyes on kids because they're looking to replace what they've got. I mean, they know these seniors are graduating. We're looking for better ball players than what I've got, because I want our team to be better. So whatever makes it easiest for them to identify you, they're looking at it. So why not? If they find your address or if they find your email address, they're going to send you something to spark your interest to get you to come to them, because it doesn't cost them anything.
Well, let me get these people who think, just going to camps is the way to get recruited. I just want them to kind of, sit on some things, let some things marinate. What I'm about to tell them is, listen, camps are a part of the process, but it is not the first step. I don't advise any of my families just to randomly sign up for a camp. It has to make recruitable. It has to be a recruitable option. It has to make sense in the process, right? So just signing up for a random camp when this coach doesn't know who you are, they've never seen you play, and you're not sending video, for you just to sign up and go to a camp and expect a coach to know who you are, that's really backwards. You guys, families will waste so much money chasing that camp hamster wheel. And then here's what happens, coach. You go to camp, you're either a recruit at camp or you're a camper. And what happens with the campers, the coach is going to say, hey, send me your schedule. Going to come watch you play. And then Come summertime, what do they say? Hey, good to see you out here. Here's my camp flyer. Come to camp. So we do this. Hey, I'm going to come to camp. And now it's send me your schedule. I want to see you play. Then the schedule to, hey, come to camp. Now, I need to back this up because I know a lot of coaches are, I'm going to tell it like it is because I was a former coach. I know what these camps are about. I understand why. Trust me, my assistants did not get paid well. I get that. My program needs the fundraising. I understand that. For me, though, I made that money in the little kids. Those 8 to 12-year-olds, coach will eat that camp up all day, any day.
Yeah.
When we talk about camps for a recruiting purpose, I'm talking about those small 20, 30, 40 max, maybe even exposure camps where there's multiple coaches from different schools, different levels that you can get more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, no, do not just sign up and go to camps because you're interested when you don't even know if you fit what that coach needs, wants. Do you fit academically? Do you fit socially? Do you fit with that coach's? So just to sign up and go because you're interested, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me on this side of things.
There's levels to camps. There are camps that are just straight money makers and that's it. And unless you're have some type of relationship with that coach or whatever, like if you're just signing up and going to that camp, there's no identification process a part of that. Like you might say, hey, blah blah blah, and like you said, they're going to say, hey, send us your schedule. We're going to try to get out there and see you, blah blah blah. That's what they are. But you'll know if it's time and you've had correspondence, or if you've whatever that part of the journey is with you, you'll know when you send that email letting them know that, hey, we're coming to your camp, or I'm coming. I've sent you videos. This is a part of the process and coming to this camp to showcase what I'm doing. And it's a prospect type camp, like you're saying, with like 30 athletes there. That's a real recruiting type camp, not one of these where there's 120 athletes for 6 players that are out there running this camp and thinking that that's how you're going to get identified. And then now my process starts. Doesn't work like that, like you were saying.
And the coaches are going to tell you that they recruit out of their camps. Well, yes, they do. But initially, I can't have you just go to a camp. Number one, does it even have your academics? Is it in the location that you would consider? You got to ask yourself those two things. Does it have my major, and can I be academically successful there? Right. Otherwise, yeah, coaches want kids and they do recruit out of camps. But guys, I'm telling you, it's not just you show up to camp. Coach, you and I both know there's things that we have to get these kids to do before camp regularly, monotonously, right? Consistently. Those are the things you're working behind the scenes. That's recruiting, so that when you get to camp, yes, they know who you are, or you've weeded out. No, I don't need to go to this camp. Yes, I need to go to this camp, right? And you've weeded out, but it's not just go to camp. There's steps to that camp process. It's what you do before, it's what you do there, and it's what you do after. All this stuff we're mentioning is very proactive. Reactive kids just want to sign up for camp and wait, or they want to send one email and wait. What we're talking about is the proactive piece of this and making things happen. Guys, ladies, anybody that hears this, listen, you are not going to get immediate response from one email. That's not a no. That's just, we need more. That coach needs to know who you are a little bit more, or maybe they need somebody more credible who has their name on you, right? That's why somebody like myself is an advantage to families, because coaches know me and they know NSR. And so when I can put my name on a kid and put them in front of a coach, it bumps them up in what that coach thinks of them.
It absolutely does, because I know firsthand that having the right network and having the right connections, it's like, oh, so and so, or how is so and so. The reputation that your circle has, the reputation that what you're a part of kind of precedes you when you go do these things. And like you said, I want to hit that point again. If you're going to a camp and expecting to and hoping to be identified, and then boom, this is how I'm going to get my offer, you are setting yourself up for that hamster wheel, like you're talking the hamster wheel of
Mhm.
recruiting or whatever it was that you said, because that's the process. That's what it is. And
I
until
mean,
you
coach,
initiate it and take control of your journey, that's what you're going to be doing.
is it even in the right pond? I mean,
Yeah.
I talk that's kind of my go-to. It's what a lot of people know me for, is when talking about, are these camps even in the right pond to begin with? Not just athletic pond, but you got an academic pond,
Yeah.
right? And if you're only fishing in this pond and you don't have the right bait and you don't have the right tackle and you certainly don't have the right vessel to be out here, you are wasting your time and you are a moneymaker. And I guarantee you, 100% coach, those kids will be invited back.
Yeah.
Okay. Hear me when I say that. If you've been to a camp 3 or 4 times, you will certainly be the first one I send an email to, because not only are you coming, but you're going to start to bring a friend or friends. And so again, that's money. That's
Yeah.
money for me.
And that's, for me, it's like when it's time for you to go to a camp, I get it. There are camps out there for you to go have the experience and just say, "Hey, I went to X, Y, and Z, and I went to a camp. It was a lot of fun." If you're going there for a practice and just to get reps in, awesome. That's an expensive practice, but why not get more bang for your buck and find a camp that is in your wheelhouse? It's in your pond. You've done your research. They do have your academic programs. It is within your budget, and you've kind of, you understand that level of competition is there to a certain degree. You don't actually know until you get there, but you've done your research, and that $200 or whatever it is, 150 bucks, $300, whatever it is, you know where that's going to. And it's not just a $300 practice that you're not getting anything back on that investment other than, man, I really hope they call me like they said they would, or I really hope they email me, or I really hope they come to one of my games.
Yeah, I don't work in the hope strategy. I'm not a hoper. I'm a realist, and I will tell the kids straight up when a camp is a good option or it's not. I mean, so for me, I mean, we could talk about this. Could be a whole other topic, because kids and families think that a team camp, guys, a team camp means, as a college coach, I like one kid on your team, and so everybody else has to pay just for that one kid to get in front of me. Like, coaches do not recruit teams.
Yeah.
So a team camp for me, that was a huge moneymaker. But I'm only looking at one kid on that team. So everybody else has to kind of, pony up for that expense for just that one kid.
Yeah. And you'll see that a lot. And before we get out of here, I want to sort of get into that team camp, and I want to get into that showcase.
Mhm.
Not all showcases are the same.
Right.
Not all team camps are the same, and not all these exposure event camps the same as well. There are some good ones, there are some bad ones, and there's some that probably shouldn't happen because they really don't mean a whole lot. So let's
Mhm.
talk about what it means to be at a showcase and making sure that if your coach signs you up for a showcase and they're talking about D1s and this and that, make sure it's during the right time of the year, going back to that calendar, because D1 coaches may not even be able to be there, but they're saying that they're going to be there.
Yeah, you just got to do your homework, and you got to know, okay, coaches can't work a camp during evaluation time in the fall. Like, they can't be out working that specific camp. Yeah, so know your dates, know when coaches can be on. But again, even if you guys go to a showcase and exposure, that does not guarantee that anybody gets showcased or is exposed. And it actually might be not for the good exposure.
Right.
You know what I mean? So again, if the kids, and it goes back to the travel managers. If you guys aren't reaching out to these coaches and letting them know where and when you're playing, then it really won't matter. Now, these showcases and exposure directors are going to tell you, yes, we have college coaches who will be at every field, every game. Well, let me just tell you how that happens. So I was a Division II coach for most of my career. My budget was $1,000 of recruiting. Okay,
Hmm.
think about how that doesn't go very far. So what I had to do was find these exposure tournaments that would fly me out, put me up in a hotel, and then pay me to be at a field for a certain amount of time. So I'm only at that field because you're paying me to be there so that I can actually then go see the kids I really need to see.
Yeah.
Okay. So understand that, yeah, they can say just at like out in Colorado. Yeah, college coaches will be at those fields, at those games and fields. but it may not even be the field you're at. And that coach is there getting paid. They're paid to be there. That's how that all came to be, is we got to get these coaches there. So pay them.
Yep.
So heck yeah, with a Division II budget, you're dang right. I'm going to be at every tournament that's going to pay me to come in and I can go recruit there. But I'm there because I need to see these specific 5 kids. I don't care about the 300 I'm going to watch during I don't know you.
Yeah.
You didn't email me. I don't know anything about you. These kids I've been watching for years.
Yeah. That's a great point, because you show up and you see a bunch of kids playing the game or whatever. You know nothing about them. You don't know if they're failing. You don't know how old they are. You don't know anything about what kind of budget that they're working with. You don't know anything about their work ethic or
do we
anything.
have your major? Do we have what you want to study?
So it's awesome. Hey, you're a great ball player, but I know you want to do this as your career, whatever. We don't even offer that. Or it's $45,000 a year, and we only have whatever amount of money to give you. So can you even afford to come to something like this? So there has to be some process of information gathering from both parties to make it work. And the coaches aren't going to be gathering a whole bunch of information, because unless you give them that information, they're not going to go out there and seek it. You're not a unicorn.
Coach, I'm not there to add players to my list, because, you know, I've got 10, my assistant has 20 that they're going to see. Like, we're not there to add kids to that list.
Yeah.
It is very rare if you just happen to come across the kid. But again, I mean, back to your listeners, guys, if coaches don't know when and where or what, they don't know where, when, and what, and they're not going to come chasing you. This process is your responsibility.
Yeah.
Not your high school coach, not your travel manager. And it certainly, as an advocate for my families, I am not here to do the work. I'm here to guide you and lead you. But this is your investment in your journey. So you certainly should be the one in the forefront making things happen, regardless of the calendar, regardless if the rules allow this coach to respond to me or not. But here, pay attention to the ones that are.
Yeah.
Coach, like, how many times have you seen coaches leave a program and go to a different one where they would possibly take a kid with them, but because that kid, you know, big timed them, or just didn't professionally respond, like the chances of that coach taking their name with them are slim.
Yeah.
Right. So look who's biting on your line. Look at the fish who are biting on your line, and that starts to tell you what your pond should be. I don't create the ponds, and neither do you. We just guide our kids. We're kind of like that charter boat. We know where the fish are at for this particular kid. It's up to them to throw their dang lines, right? Like, you've got to do this process. But I get having a wish list, and I get, you know, wanting that ultimate goal. But if the goal is to play college softball, then every level should be open. So just be aware of who is biting on your line. That's who we should be attacking. And then once you do have them on the line, man, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. That's such an old school saying. But the point is, if you've got this coach in hand and this program interested, don't worry about these 2 over here that haven't. Focus on this one.
Right.
That's where you go. That's who you attack. And that's where you want to go camp. And that's where you want to go take a campus tour at. Not, yeah, this is great, I got this, but what about these 2? I'm not worried about those 2.
Yeah. I could not agree more. Every time we get together, every time we talk, I get a whole bunch of information, and I don't want to do anything more than to pass this information on to the ones that need it. Because when I started this whole process of what I've been doing, it was for me to gain the knowledge. And I knew there were so many people that were just like me that assumed a lot of things or didn't even know this information was out there, and then we're learning. So every time I get a chance to talk to you, I don't want the conversation to end. Mandi, I appreciate you joining me again today. It is always a lot of fun talking to you, catching up with you. We're going to have more of this type of stuff to come in the future. So until next time, Mandi.
Appreciate you guys.